Welcome to SARC Talk. SARC is a nonprofit cancer research organization that develops and manages clinical research trials in pediatric and adult sarcomas. This episode of SARC Talk is part 3 of a 3-part series that was recorded at SARC's Research Advocacy Council meeting.
Hello, my name is Scott Okuno, Chief Medical Officer for SARC. We're at the SARC Research Advocacy Council meeting, and this is February 25th, 2023. And we spent the whole day with our Research Advocacy Council members. We heard earlier today we had input from the physician of the sarcoma team here at UT, and I'm blessed to have 3 individuals part of the RAC Advocacy Council here to have a little conversation after the meeting. So we'll have individuals introduce themselves.
Anya Shea with the National Leiomyosarcoma Foundation and Sarcoma Coalition and RAC.
Lenny Woods with the Clear Cell Sarcoma Foundation.
Peter Fantozzi with the Northwest Sarcoma Foundation.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming down here and providing input to SARC. But I also would say that SARC learned a lot from you all as well. What are the couple things that you understand better today about SARC that you didn't know before you came here today?
The importance of the clinical trial connection that you all provide and the strength that gives our patient advocacy organizations and our patients the hope that they need to get through the disease.
Mm-hmm.
I learned a little bit more about, which was really good for me to understand kind of how SARC came to be and what its purpose was. And it's because I didn't truly understand that in Detroit when we first started this. But yeah, to understand, we don't always know each other's mission behind what we're doing. We have to bring it together. And I thought that was good. We assume, patients, I think, assume that the person running the trials or the doctor that we go see knows everything about every disease. And that's something we hear a lot from our patients is we get diagnosed with something rare and it's like, how does no one know about this? So
I think for me it was the Young Investigator Catalyst program that you have started at SARC and the positive impact that could potentially have by bringing in young investigators early on in their careers to spark their interest and hopefully hook them into this disease and keep them here over the long term throughout their career.
Yeah, Peter, you bring up a good point because our main goal is to get people interested in sarcoma, stay in sarcoma, and research sarcoma and take care of patients with sarcoma. And I think what you're hearing is we found more and more opportunities, and we'll keep on, pursuing that to keep people continue to be engaged. Each of you are part of organizations that deal with sarcoma. Engaging scientific individuals in your organization at times is a struggle, we heard today. How do you all curate your scientific advisory group? How do you curate to ensure that the science of your specific organization is aligning with some standard out there? So part of that is to understand how you set yourselves up and how you continue to move forward.
for us, being that we're so ultra rare and really the only foundation in the U.S., I think for us, we look to the doctors who showed the most passion when talking to us. That was really what it is. We're not going to find someone who already has the knowledge or not a ton of knowledge, but when you find the person, the doctor that's passionate about it, that's the one you want to grab onto. And you hope they're one of those really young doctors. But a lot of times it's somebody who's been around a long time to see enough clear cell or rare sarcomas.
Yeah. As you get into these rare tumors, it's really hard to say that you've seen thousands of clear cell, because they would probably be lying, because unless they're 40, 50 years old into their practice. Mm-hmm. So you're right. So enthusiasm and connection is key. What other things that have you done in your organization to ensure that you have the right members on your medical advisory team?
I've reading the research reading research papers and published articles has really helped me, because then I look to see who was the principal author of the publication and who was involved in it, and then I reach out and just make cold calls for patient education opportunities for our patients, and then cultivate a relationship where I feel comfortable that the physician, the researcher would be interested in being part of our organization to help us. And you were certainly that person.
Well, it's been a mutual relationship, but we have learned a lot about patient advocacy from you all today, as well as Annie and Mitch as well. I am members of other patient advocacy groups, and I learn all the time. But as we start to think about it, there's only so many sarcoma oncologists here in the United States, so you're going to go pretty quick into, shallow waters, as we would say. How about the Northwest Alliance? How do you guys select who advises you?
Well, I would agree with what you guys have said. I think also that's something that's important is looking at affiliations with different medical centers, but also who has been there to support someone throughout their career, what kind of mentors they've had, who trained them. I think is really valuable to look at when considering who you're going to support with your finances.
Yeah, you're right, because we heard loud and clear, patients are selling goods, cookies, baked goods. They're doing runs, they're doing fundraisers, and you want to be good stewards of that money that has been entrusted into your group. And you really want to make sure when you do fund something that it is appropriate and that you're going to get return on your investment, because ultimately that's what we're trying to do.
And it's people's lives. So for them to have that faith in us, it really does. It's a heavy weight, but it is people's lives. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
But we want to be good stewards of the funds, and we want to demonstrate that. That's why to have a vetting process like we've established through you as our executive committee, we feel very comfortable that we're funding the best research we can possibly fund and support.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, Annie, for those that don't know, several years ago when we did a patient advocacy group meeting in Mayo Clinic Rochester, we were sitting after the meeting and says, you're getting these one-off requests for funding. You probably should have a system in place to make sure that they are scored appropriately. Everybody knows that you're going to fund X amount of projects, and that way you have a scientific rigor around what gets funded or not, because your patient advocacy groups do a great job of connecting and understanding, but we in the research realm can really give you an idea like this is good science, this is a good lab, a good place to put your money if you decide to do that. And each organization, depending on their level of existence and what they're doing, might have a very robust vetting process. Some are very loose. So I do think there's some opportunities. That's what we learned today, is as a research advocacy council working with a sarcoma coalition, that we can probably help educate individuals. All of you belong to the Sarcoma Coalition as well. How does your role there compare with your role here in the Sarcoma Research Advocacy Council?
I think it just melds very well together. It just is a good fit. We look to SARC and to RAC as the research arm of the Sarcoma Coalition, where there is a connection and all organizations can come together to support the research community in trials.
Sarcoma Coalition, we have so many different levels of groups. We have some that are just starting out and they're kind of back, like I said, when I came to the first meeting, I had no idea what anybody was even saying. And so they're all doing their research, reading research papers, talking with other people. We help to raise them up or answer their questions and be a support system for those groups. There's also other ones that support us. We support each other. And then when we come to SARC as members of the Research Advocacy Council, we bring that voice, if you will, of those groups and what they're dealing with, what's important to them, what do they find are challenges to you. And as we saw today, there's a lot we didn't know about each other. So
it was really fun to see the interactions that says, oh, we did this, we're doing this, oh, that ties into what our organization does. But that's a subset of the bigger group. So I do think there's a great opportunity.
I don't personally know about our involvement with the coalition.
It's okay. I mean, part of it is, what did you learn about the coalition today?
That there's a lot of eager involvement, there's a lot of passion for people from different organizations, that it's a conglomerate of people who come in, who have their own interests, but also share a common passion for finding this cure for all of them.
You're right. Most organizations don't grow up knowing how to be a patient advocacy group. There's time, failures, regroup. You know, it's a lot of growth. And I think we at SARC understand that. We do know that there's a lot of passion out there to do well for our patients and support research. And we're just blessed to have all of you come as members of the RAC, as we call it, to help guide our decision making. When we leave here today, things are going to be a little bit different of how we engage with members of RAC. We meaning SARC, okay? What are some of those things that you see are going to be different going forward with your commitment to RAC and SARC, and how your involvement's going to be in SARC?
I think more regular communication will be important and definitely a feature. I think we've established that going forward we're going to be able to set more guidelines and clear priorities amongst those who are involved, as well as our quarterly meetings, which will be important, and in-person meetings both at CTOS and wherever we have it for the Research Advocacy Council annually. I think those are new, and a new level of involvement, a new refocus that had kind of leaned away over the past couple of years as the company was, or as the organization was going through COVID and everyone was struggling to adapt to that whole situation.
Yeah. I do appreciate you reflecting on what all of the U.S. and the world had to go through in 2020 to present, and I think we've learned a lot coming out of it. And even though we can have Zoom meetings and whatnot, I think active engagement is the key, and better communication, not one-way street, but a two-way street, is what we heard today from both ends. Mm-hmm. We also found out that it is not practical for SARC to reach every patient advocacy group. There's 30 plus out there and maybe more. Mm-hmm. But you guys are going to be the clearinghouse of how to do that and use your contacts and resources. What else did you think that's going to be different from here going forward?
Well, I'm going to be a little specific and then more broad. First, specifically for us, what I learned, and COVID maybe delayed me learning this sooner, I think understanding trials, I didn't know what I didn't know. Had I known when we were embarking on a trial that we worked with pharma on, I known what I do today, I'd have probably picked up the phone and called you or Chappie or somebody and said, why is this the way it is? And then I think a lot of things would have been different. So from now on, I'm probably going to do that. And then in the bigger picture, the broader picture, I now have that knowledge and experience, so I hope that I can share it as I speak with my colleagues and friends at other advocacy groups, that here's how it works, and just call them. If you've got a trial you're wanting to get started, you've got your, some of your people in place, your core people, just pick up the phone and ask.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Well, and I feel today's meeting really set the tone and set the framework for how we're going to reach out to each other in the future to bring the patient voice to the table every time we meet, because that's what we tell our patients is, tell us what you want us to take with you when we go to these global meetings and local meetings. It's important to take them with us, and we want to always represent them. And the coalition has been special for us. While we're leiomyosarcoma, you're clear cell, we're all together. We check our hats at the door, and we're all pansarcoma at that point.
Our mutations are different, but so much more is the same.
I feel this new energy of better communication, better dialogue, to allow SARC to be a better organization for who we serve, which is our patients. Let's be honest. And if we don't reach our patients through you all, then we're missing the boat. When we design trials that don't have patient input, we miss the boat. So I do think that we're going to continue to evolve, engage patient advocacy as we move forward. And this podcast is one step in that as well. So we're going to get more voices out there about what the role of patient advocacy groups are. We have a couple other individuals lined up already to talk about their experiences of taking a mom and pop organization to a bigger, broader national footprint and taking a very single-focused tumor histology-specific group and the challenges of, with low volume, how to do that. So look forward to future podcasts on that, and we'll probably ask some of you to come back and talk more in depth as we build out our podcast and get the word out. So again, thank you all for spending a beautiful Saturday here in Houston, and we look forward to continued collaboration.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate being invited in. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss a SARC talk. To find out more about SARC, please visit our website at sarctrials.org. To suggest a topic or ask questions, please email us at sarctalk@sarctrials.org. And remember, together we can find a cure for all forms of sarcoma.